The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. King Herod heard of the miracles of Jesus, for Jesus' name had become known. Some were saying, "John the Baptist has been raised from the dead, and for this reason these powers are at work and in him." But others said, "It is Elijah." And others said, "It is a prophet, like one of the prophets of old." But when Herod heard of it, he said, "John, whom I beheaded, has been raised." For Herod himself had sent men who arrested John, bound him, and put him in prison on account of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because Herod had married her. For John had been telling Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." And Herodias had a grudge against him and wanted to kill him. But she could not, for Herod feared John, knowing that he was a righteous and holy man, and he protected him. When Herod heard John, he was greatly perplexed, and yet he liked to listen to him. But an opportunity came when Herod, on his birthday, gave a banquet for his courtiers and officers, and for the leaders of Galilee. When the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced, she pleased Herod and his guests. And the king said to the girl, "Ask me for whatever you wish, and I will give it." And he solemnly swore to her, "Whatever you ask me, I will give you, even half of my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What should I ask for?" She replied, "The head of John the Baptist." Immediately she rushed back to the king and requested, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." The king was deeply grieved, yet out of regard for his oaths and for the guests, he did not want to refuse her. Immediately the king sent a soldier of the guard with orders to bring John's head. He went and beheaded him in the prison, brought his head on a platter, and gave it to the girl. Then the girl gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard about it, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. The Gospel of the Lord. My brothers and sisters, today's Gospel gives us two really important lessons. The first is about lust. A lot of us, without admitting, probably feel a bit of compassion for Herod. He seems kind of like a noble person who, in his weakness, was kind of duped and tricked. It's kind of a tragic story. I think a lot of us feel that way sometimes about Pilate. He wanted to release Jesus, but then he kind of caved. And Herod, he protected John, and he was kind of tricked, and he made a rash oath, and out of regard, and we feel, we're often weak. So, Herod is maybe like us, actually, that's not true at all. Herod's weakness was lust. And that's what led him to sin so grievously as to murder an innocent man. And you may not notice, because the wording is a little bit different, but when it says that Herodias' daughter came in and danced and pleased Herod and his guests, it's not like he was watching the gymnastics and gave like 10 out of 10, like the Olympics. He was totally aroused. This was a sexual dance, and he was lusting after her. He was so lustful over her that he made this rash oath. "I'll give you anything you want." He was a man burning with lust. How can I say this? Am I jumping to conclusion? No, because one sin of lust leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. So it started with taking his brother Philip's wife. And then it leads to adultery, divorce, adultery. And then this is his daughter-in-law, or stepdaughter, sorry. So this is like an incestuous relationship. It grows more and more and more. That's one lesson about lust. It's never something that's easy to control. It's never something that's just kind of small. Anyone who thinks that way is a fool, and foolish just as much as Herod is. You may think of something really evil and ugly and say, that's really bad, but the sins that I commit, they're not that bad, right? They're just kind of, all sin is as ugly as the ugliest sin you can imagine, because it comes from the devil. It's a distortion of God, and it hates God. So lust leads from one bad thing to another to another. It's a slippery slope. That's the first lesson. Anyone who's on that slope and thinks that they're safe is foolish. And they need to decide to get out of there. It starts with a choice of the will. As long as you flirt with sin, you're not really a Christian. Now you may think, am I being a little harsh? We all struggle with different things. If someone struggles with lust, does that mean they're not a Christian? No. But it means as soon as you say, I don't want to sin anymore, no matter how small I think it is, I don't want it, then you become a Christian. As long as you say, it's not that bad, then you're just as foolish as Herod. And the second thing about lust is that it leaves you powerless. You're useless. The good things that you think you do when you're okay with sin is actually no good thing at all. So Herod, who swears this rash oath, I'll give you anything you want, when the girl comes and says, okay, I want you to murder this innocent person. Now, he could have said, no, I'll give you anything that's not sinful, like anything, material thing, you want money, I'll give you money or whatever. But he was kind of bound, he's powerless, he's useless. That's what happens to someone who gives in to lust. Even if on the outside it looks very serene and safe, even if it looks like they're doing good things in other parts of their life, on the whole, the picture of God looking down upon the world, powerless, useless, not advancing the kingdom, not doing anything good. So get out of this slippery slope of lust. That's the first lesson. The second is about John the Baptist. John the Baptist is a man of integrity. That's what the lesson is about. A lot of us think John the Baptist is just a hero who speaks the truth and suffers. So we have to speak the truth and we have to suffer. If we're as courageous as John the Baptist, we'll speak the truth in really difficult situations. That's true, but not really. It's more about the integrity of John the Baptist, who builds all of his relationship, every single one of his relationships, on truth. He could have said, I'm a prophet, I disagree with what he's doing, but that's not my life. That's a lot of what we hear in our world today. You do you, I do my thing. I disagree with what you're doing, but you continue doing it. No, he spoke because he didn't want to have a relationship with Herod that's built on a lie. That doesn't mean all of us have to go and speak whatever to everything, to everyone, all the time. No, you're doing this, you're doing that, that's wrong. No, but if you feel in your heart the Lord is inspiring you to say something, to speak to someone, to tell the truth, and you say, let me just look away, let me turn a blind eye to it. That relationship that you have with that person, there's no real love, because love is built on truth. If you try to build that relationship on a lie, you're deceiving yourself and you're harming the other person. So integrity. Integrity means building your relationship on truth. So if you feel inspired, if you know someone in your family that you love, and you've never said anything to them because you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to offend them, there's no real love there. If you know that they're divorced and remarried, that they're cohabitating, that they're living in sin, this sexual sin, lust, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be sexual sin too, anything else, but you, out of fear of losing them, will not say the truth, will turn a blind eye, then you're harming that person. You're not just kind of coasting along until you get to heaven. You're hurting the person. And the Lord will require, when he judges you to make an account why you didn't speak, why you let this person maybe lose their soul by not speaking. But people have a right to hear the truth. We often think that we have an obligation to speak the truth, which is true, but we have that obligation because they have a right to hear it. Now, if they don't want to listen after, that's between them and God. But we need to be like St. John the Baptist and have this integrity. So if you struggle with impurity, with lust, with this flirting with sin, thinking that it's not too bad, it's not all the way to the point of incest like Herod, it's just this kind of one thing in a while, If you struggle with that, we're about to receive the Sacred Heart of Jesus, who is purity and love himself. Ask him to remove from your heart any enticements to evil. Maybe sometimes it's good that evil shows its face for what it is. Then you kind of wake up. When you see how ugly sin is, that's a grace that God gives you. If you get scared to see what your life is becoming, that's also a grace. Ask the Lord to wake you up if you're kind of slumbering in sin. And if you maybe don't have this weakness, thanks be to God, but you don't have the courage to speak, you're afraid of losing the love that maybe is not really real love of other people because it's built on a lie, the Lord will give you his courage too today in the Eucharist. You don't have to be afraid of anything. The Lord has prepared his graces for you from all eternity. You have to come to him with confidence. Just don't be okay with sin, and don't put your head under the sand, pretending that there's no sin around you. The Lord is with you. He loves you. He'll give you the grace and the courage. You just need to ask it of him. Ask it from the Sacred Heart today on the First Friday. He refuses nothing of those who come to him with confidence. Amen.